So we're checking back in with the yapping dog, RK Outpost, Ryan Kinel, or as I sometimes have called him on my Twitter thing, RKKK. For those not in the know, he made this pretty outrageously, fairly racist rant against the Batman because it had too many black women. Or to be precise, there were too many black women who were good. Even though Catwoman technically wasn't good, I guess she was an anti-hero, that's still too good for him. So there were way too many, quote, good black people, and that upset him, and too many bad white people, and that upset him. And even people in his own camp were like, all right then. So he's back to torture us with more misinformation, or what can we say, skewed outrage over the X-Men not being X or men, allegedly.
About it. Mutants updates. Deadline seemingly confirms that the X-Men reboot movie for the MCU will be called The Mutants. And that caused a little bit of a problem for some people. Marvel's rumored X-Men movie title ignites MCU fan uproar, as it rightly should, if that's what you think they're actually going to do. If you think these people are actually going to do away with the name X-Men because they think the name is outdated, and you saw reactions like this, please know The Mutants is a stupid title. Just call them the X-Men like everybody knows them as. It's not sexist. I think of X-Men like human. Just state that in the movie. As if you need to address that. Are you kidding me?
Well, to be fair, he is concentrating on the upcoming live MCU and the way the X-Men may or may not be transformed, changed, or reconstructed. And surprise, I do think he has some valid points. Like, I didn't like the way they did, quote, race swap Jim Gordon. However, people being ignorant of the comics and Batman lore kept going further and further that they were committing ginger side too. And it's like, no, no, there weren't. Gordon's disposition actually is inconsistent. Sometimes he has a daughter, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he's younger, sometimes he's older. And I think Ryan, I want to be careful, I don't want to overgeneralize, unlike him. I think he was laughing at the idea that Gordon might have a Hispanic daughter because, it'd be played by JK, and, he's getting up in years. And I'm like, so what? You're saying that Jim Gordon, even being old, can't perform? I don't know. So he's a bit of a weirdo in terms of what he thinks he knows. He definitely knows the Star Wars stuff. He's read the novels, but when he tries to extend his grasp, he just comes off like an idiot. And this is no exception because, as always, he went much further than he should have. So yes, Victoria said those things. Alonzo has made clear she might want to change the name. I disagree, so I agree with him. Like, I don't think that's a good idea, but of course, he can't stop himself and goes a little bit further.
Here we go. During this interview, listen to what she says when she's asked about the X-Men.
So you guys have a lot of toys to play with now in the future, including the X-Men, right?
Yes.
Could you, of course you can't tell me much, but can you give me a little hint of what the future is coming? Where is the future going and the excitement?
I don't know where the future is going. It's funny that people call it the X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in that X-Men group, so I think it's outdated. I don't know where it's going to go.
It's really all you need to hear. It's funny that they use the name X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes. I really think that name is outdated. Are you a fucking idiot? I mean, you clearly are. You clearly are a fucking piece of shit idiot, Victoria Alonso. But the idea that you would sit there and really virtue signal like that knowing very well that men or man is just an all-encompassing term, that you had a female leader of the X-Men for quite some time as well in the comic book run. This is laughably stupid, but these are the people that are running Marvel right now. So is it really that outlandish that when you give someone like this power, when you let activists control your company, when your priority clearly is identity politics above storytelling? It's very clear that that is the case in Marvel Phase 4, even.
And again, he might have a point, except literally at the same time. I'm talking literally at the same time he put this thing out. They put this out officially. This is official. This is not a rumor. This is not a Doomcock thing. This is not I heard it. This has been confirmed. We have photos. We have images. It's been confirmed by credible news outlets that yes, the X-Men 97 is coming. It's even been greenlit for a second season. For those who don't know, before they were live action films, the X-Men were relegated to animated series. There were actually several attempts, but the most successful attempt was in the early 1990s to late 1990s to put it on the small screen, and it worked pretty fantastically. It's been done in the animated format a couple different times, but I do think the animated series is probably one of the best. I did like actually the Wolverine and X-Men series also pretty well, but that only ran for one season. It's unfortunate it had a short life, but it was also pretty good. X-Men Evolution, I'm a little bit more torn on. So I do know X-Men pretty well, and yeah, they're being called the X-Men. Now, there are some changes. They don't have Professor X, but before you panic, they've got another white man, Magneto, and yes, he does look white. He looks like a man. They've even brought back other toxic white men like Sebastian Shaw. They have, quote, expanded, quote, a more diverse cast a little bit. We've got Sunspot, who's a dark skinned Brazilian. We've also got Emma coming back. We also have Valerie Cooper, who's a white woman. So it's actually pretty remarkable. They're sticking pretty close to the comic book canon and their own canon from the animated show. So we're going to have Bishop, who's a black man who's a time traveler. We have Forge, who's Native American. But we also have Cable, who here is the son of Scott Summers and Jean Grey. Technically, he's not in the comics. It's a clone. It's very complicated. He is genetically tied to the Summers family, but in a weird way. So we've got a lot of the old favorites and even some new people. And we've got a lot of the classic people coming back, like Sinister. So this is the X-Men, and they're calling it the X-Men 97. They're even going to do it for 2 seasons, unless they're going to radically change the name for the second season. What the hell are you talking about? X-Men is going to be within the MCU universe. Perhaps not the live-action universe, but within the animated form. No, the X-Men, even as a title, is going to stay here. I understand what you're saying, and technically it's correct, maybe in the live action format, but the idea that as a generalization, the X-Men and their days are over is a little premature. But to give him some benefit of the doubt, I don't think he does know the X-Men. He probably just saw the films. He thinks, I've saw the films. Probably read at least a few of the comics. I know all the X-Men. Well, apparently he doesn't, and isn't even keeping up with the X-Men stuff. And I've dropped out of being a hardcore Marvel guy a while ago because I was disillusioned what they did with X-Men and Spider-Man. But even I try to keep up once in a while, and I'm like, yeah, I knew the X-Men 97 was coming back for a long time. So unless he has some radical new news we've never heard about, you should have included that in this news report. It should have been like, well, at least the animated side, guys, is going to be normal. I just want a nice, good, toxic white man I can look up to. And it's like, well, they're bringing back Sebastian Shaw. So don't worry. They've got an evil white man you can look up to. They even have a good white man you can look up to. Though I think probably Cable would be disgusted as racism. But it's me just going with the comic book canon and even the animated canon. Cable's not a big friendly guy to the racists, who are represented by the Friends of Humanity, which does sound and act a lot like Geeks and Gamers. You know, just between us.